This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and their guests only. The content here should not be taken as medical advice and is for informational purposes only. And because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. Welcome to Once Shattered, Picking Up the Pieces, a podcast devoted to changing the way eating disorders and mental illness are viewed in our society. With your hosts, Jack and Linda Major and Ellen Bennett. Today's guest is Laura Gavigan. Laura is the founder of Mindful Matters 585 LLC, offering mindful education, counseling, and coaching for anyone looking to find balance, focus, and peace in their lives. Working as an educator for many years, Laura became interested in how life can inherently create stress and anxiety, leading to burnout and chronic health challenges. She has counseled, coached, and advised thousands, integrating a framework of mindful wellness, empathy, and support. Laura has led introductory and advanced mindful meditation classes and workshops, and has been featured as a guest speaker or panelist for a wide variety of organizations. Mindful Matters offers classes, workshops, and guided meditation both locally and internationally. Every program emphasizes a mindful approach through insight, practice, and community to help people thrive rather than survive.
A warm welcome to everyone listening. We are thrilled to have you here with us today, and we have a very inspirational and enlightening podcast for you, brought to you by KMB for Answers and the Emily Connection, two eating disorder nonprofits that are very near and dear to our hearts. We will welcome our special guest in just a moment, but first I'd like to welcome my husband and soulmate, Jack Major, and Ms. Ellen Bennett, fellow mental health advocate, eating disorder advocate, and dearest friend.
Hello, listeners.
Hello,
and thank
hello.
you for joining us again today. It's great to be back.
Hello, welcome. It's great to be here.
Okay, well, Ellen and I met Laura Gavigan at a transformative retreat this summer, and this quote is on Laura's website, and I think it's a great place to start. It's by Sylvia Bornstein, and the quote is, "Mindfulness meditation doesn't change life. Life remains as fragile and unpredictable as ever. Meditation changes the heart's capacity to accept life as it is." I believe this quote says a lot about Laura and her journey, her experiences, and how she got here. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you so much.
Welcome,
Linda.
Laura. Thanks for being here today.
I really appreciate it. And Ellen, thank you all.
We're honored to have you.
I love that quote.
Yeah.
It's when you really just slow down and read it, and you need to read it a couple times. It is so meaningful, and it really brings a little refocus because we forget how life is so fragile and unpredictable. Love it, love it.
Yeah, from day to day.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have so many moments where we think we know exactly what is ahead, and
Yeah.
surprise! Surprise, surprise.
Well, Laura, it's wonderful to have you here in person. And can you just tell us where people can reach you?
Sure. So my website is mindfulmatters585.com. Social media is at mindfulmatters585. So it's pretty easy. The 585 is our area code in Rochester, so that was nice and easy. And I have a home office in Fairport and an office in the South Wedge here in Rochester. And I can meet with clients or do programs remotely on Zoom. So I have clients internationally, and it's their choice to meet in person or on Zoom.
It's nice to have the option nowadays.
Boy, Zoom. What would we do without Zoom? You know, I mean, it's just.
A few years ago, if you had told me that I'd be doing this work on Zoom, I would have laughed.
So, again, thank you for coming today, and it's great having you here. So, can you tell us just a little bit about your life and your career before mindfulness?
Sure. So I worked in higher ed for the majority of my adult life, and started out at the University of Maryland. Overseas, they have divisions for military students and their families. So I lived in Spain, Germany, Japan, and I'm from New Jersey originally. And I know, right? You asked. And mindfulness has really helped with my tendency to go Jersey, we'll say.
Oh, why does Jersey get such a bad rap?
No, it's a beautiful state. I mean, we mountains and oceans and
everybody loves Jersey girls, right?
Right?
Yeah.
You can't see me, but big blonde hair, lots of eyeliner, and a Jersey girl from the 80s. So especially,
That was a great era.
it was a great era. Had friends in Rochester through the years, and when I finally decided to stay in one place, it was Rochester, and that was 23 years ago. And then shortly after that, I went through a really painful divorce. It was a tough time in my life, and a friend invited me to a yoga class, and at the time I thought, no, that's kind of hippy dippy.
The Jersey girl comes out.
I don't know. So she said, her name is Sigrid. Just come. If you don't like it, it's okay. Just try it. All right. Well, the rest of the story. I fell in love with the practice, most of all, the end, the Shavasana, the final meditation, the resting. And it had such a transformative effect on my life then, because I was really a mess, and it helped me settle a lot of emotions and move forward. So through the years, I worked at a local university, and yada, 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 20 years later, had the opportunity to teach mindfulness classes on campus. And I was scared. I don't like public speaking. I still don't. You can hear the little catch in my throat. But I said yes. And that was the year that I was saying yes to things that scared me and challenged me, and no to things that were not serving me or nourishing me to whatever extent that's possible. No, I'm not going to pay my bills anymore. It does not serve me. And I'm so glad I did, because I learned to teach mindfulness. And then in the fall of 2020, I was extremely burned out. And I think that's something you guys want to cover today. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? I'm too young to retire. I'm not independently wealthy. And so it was a process of thinking about what I love, what I'm pretty good at, and people might pay me. So that was the seed of Mindful Matters. And that was 3 years ago.
Great time for new beginnings, huh?
Fall has always been a time of new beginnings for me. I don't know why.
So what did you do for those first 20 years of your career in higher education?
Always student services facing, so academic advising. I directed a student services office at a business school, and other duties as assigned. But student facing, yeah, some committees and task forces and things like that too.
You love young people, I'm sure.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And when I left, I was really sad to let go of that part of my life. I loved the work that I did. When you work for a big organization, it's all the other things that lead to burnout, especially during a pandemic.
Yeah, I think it forced a lot of people to re-examine their lives and going forward, how they wanted to spend their time. And especially as we get a little bit older, you just want to prioritize that time.
It was affecting my health too, in serious ways.
Yeah,
so it was, my body was telling me, girl, you need to listen to me. Something's got to change.
Yeah, life has a way of catching up with us. And when you're young, it seems sometimes you can juggle a whole lot more. And when you get older, that multitasking is kind of overrated.
I think in many ways, young people are learning ways of being mindful, even if they're not calling it that, younger. And I wish I had known this stuff when I was much younger. I don't think I would have burned myself out in some of the same ways.
Yeah, we'll get into that and some upcoming things. But it took a great deal of courage, though, for you to change your career path. I'm sure it was still difficult.
Oh yeah, It was really scary. And I need to acknowledge the privilege that I have. I remarried my husband, an amazing human being, was supportive and taking one for the team with the health benefits so that I could do this.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit of tightening the belts, and it seems like
doing what you had to do. Yeah.
Well, it's wonderful. I mean, I think if you have a great partner, it just makes us even better. So,
and when he
fortunate.
says I see a difference from a few years ago, just, my stress level, we joke that I would like stomp around like the Wicked Witch sometimes.
I think your smile says it all.
Yeah.
You radiate joy.
Oh, thank you, Ellen.
Okay, so as we recognize that we all need some level of mindfulness as a society, I believe we're somewhat resistant, hesitant, not quite understanding why, what, when, where. There's an uncertainty about mindfulness. Even when you reflected, like as a wishing we had paid more attention when we were younger. And so my question is, how can we help broaden acceptance and practice to help everyone find a little calm in the storm? Because we all need it.
Absolutely. Well, we're all human, and all of these big feelings, whether they're joy and pain and comfort and discomfort, are all very human. Excuse me. The way that I approached Mindful Matters and the way that I wanted to bring mindfulness to people who didn't know about it or who were resisting it was doing in a way that is practical and can be done in a hopefully simple everyday practice. The first time I experienced that, I was in a graduate class, and the professor before each class would ask us, the usual, put your phones away, and, then he led a mindful meditation for just a few minutes. Very practical, very secular. It wasn't heavy, hippy-dippy. And the idea was, we're all here for these next couple of hours. Let's do our best to be here together, learn together, share, study, speak, all the things that we were doing in that time. And I would say that was an aha moment for me, that mindfulness and meditation does not need to always be at the end of a yoga practice or on a special pillow on a mountain in a beautiful place. I mean, we all love that, right? But if you haven't tried it, please do sometime, even if it's just a little patch of grass in your backyard. Like, that's wonderful, but it's the little moments all day long. And when you learn some simple everyday skills, and I can do some of that if you want later.
Absolutely.
Just like a quick breath or feet flat on the ground. It's profound how much it can change your day to day, and it's a sustainable way of being mindful. So we can have those things like, okay, I'm going to do a 10-minute meditation when I wake up in the morning. That's fantastic as a regular thing. To be able to, in a moment of stress, fear, but also joy and comfort, to pause and bring it back to the moment, whether it's your breath or touching what's in front of us, to be like, this moment is now. It dials down the nervous system. When we get stressed, it affects our minds and bodies. I mean, it really, and then you start noticing, I handled that way different than I would have a few years ago. And that's the moment where you're like, it works. And I know it's worked for me in so many ways.
We're just slow here in the West. I mean, Eastern culture has had this figured out forever. And I think the first person who brought out mindfulness was in the 60s, Dr. Herbert Benson, and he was the first one that proved the physiological changes in our bodies when we relaxed, and that it was healing and cathartic. And but we're getting it now. So, and it's never been needed more than now, but it's kind of a dichotomous time.
Yeah.
I read years ago, corporate America just uses their employees, to But the CEOs, I read, would take a moment in the morning to just meditate themselves. And, I think there's a lot of newer companies now, especially in Silicon Valley and stuff, that are giving their employees time to take a moment during the day to relax and, meditate.
And it doesn't even need to be called mindfulness. I mean, that word is thrown around so much these days, like self-care, So it's easy to dismiss the word, but if, it can be called many different things, like take a break, walk outside, step away from your desk, step away from the conflict. Just a pause between what's going on and then our very human reactions, which are not usually helpful.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the only thing we really can control is the way we react to things. But usually that initial response in stressful times is not the most beneficial.
Yeah, straight to reaction. The space allows a response. But it's not easy. I mean, I can sit here and say, it sounds so simple, but it's not easy. It really takes a process of noticing and intentionally, okay, I'm going to pause. Coming over here, I felt like I was running late and, like, all right, you'll get there. You'll get there. And what use is it going to be if I clench my fists and my shoulders on the way from my house to here?
Yeah.
Wow, we're practicing life, right?
Yeah,
It's
we're
just
practicing life.
So I'm going to ask you this next question, and I think after you answer it, it might be a good time for you to demonstrate whatever technique you would like, okay? So you share your gifts and help others find their gifts through your work. Tell us about the different types of clients you've worked with and the changes you've seen in them after embracing the Mindfulness Matters approach.
So I'll tell you a little bit about when I worked with college students. When they were in distress, whether it's academically or life, and some were my assigned advisees. Some, one of my advisees said, you should go try and talk to Laura. So, I mean, I'm not going to say every student loved me, like mostly in the middle. People don't like hearing things that they don't like to hear. You're failing all your classes. But sometimes I'd be just, come in. Let's not even talk about your classes. Just let's find some space. And, how about I play this 2-minute breathing thing? What do you think? And I could just watch the strain, the stress melting away and didn't call it a special thing. Like, how about we just sit and breathe together for a little while? And then we can talk about all the things. And so many times students would leave my office and say, I feel so much better than I did when I came in. And so to me, that's such a great data point. And I forget a lot when I'm leading a meditation. Okay, everybody tell me your stress level, like 1 to 10. And then afterwards, okay, 1 to 10, is it lower? And more often than not, I mean, all the time it is. So the clients that I see now, it's a really broad spectrum. I still have a tough time thinking about what's my niche, what's my perfect client. The perfect client is the one that finds me for whatever reason. So a lot of people are in some kind of transition, maybe, moving, a job, a separation, something pivotal in their life, and they're stuck, I have a client who's a middle school student, and she and her mom come together. And that was about...
That's nice.
Yeah. So it's kind of all over the place. I brought this quote that I keep on my desk. And a mutual friend of ours shared this person with me. His name's Tad Hargrave. Marketing for hippies.
Hippy dippy.
Because I don't want to do sales and marketing. It's icky, but I've learned a lot. So he says, your niche will be shaped by 3 things: your gifts, your wounds, and your nature. Your gifts will give the shape of your work. Your wounds will provide the direction of it. Your nature will give the tone to it.
That's beautiful.
And
Profound.
I keep this on my bulletin board because I'm like, yes, yes, yes.
And we all have wounds.
Yeah, we're human.
Yeah.
How human of me. I forget where I learned that, but every time I make a mistake or stumble like we do,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, how human of me.
Yeah, what I keep saying is, if it hasn't been a great day, I've had a very human day today. Yeah. So is there a technique you'd like to share with our listeners today? Something you can demonstrate?
Sure. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot going on in our lives. So there's kind of a micro, macro ungroundedness lately. So let me show you a couple of grounding techniques when you just feel like it's just too much. You can put your feet flat on the floor if they reach. Sometimes mine don't. I have short legs, so they do reach here. Ellen, I see your feet.
I know. They're skating.
And just for a moment, if you'd like to close your eyes, it's not necessary. But really notice how your feet feel on the floor, the earth. Any sensations, cool or warm. Nothing to change. And then notice your breath. Nothing special, just your natural, regular breath. And pay attention as you inhale and exhale. And like it, if you can, put one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly. And as you continue to breathe, notice where your breath is rising and falling in your body in these two areas. Typically, we breathe into our chest. That's our everyday kind of breathing. So with your next inhale, see if you can send that breath to your belly like you're inflating a balloon. And when you exhale, deflating the balloon. It doesn't have to be the biggest balloon, just a little bit. And then you can let your hands go and that targeted breath go. And just come back and notice your regular breath. And whenever you're ready, take a deep, deep breath in and sigh it out. Take your time. If you want to do that again, go right ahead. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes, invite a little movement in, and come back to our space together.
Thank you.
So 3 things there at the very least. Feet on the floor, the ground, the earth is literally grounding. If you're in a chair, I didn't say it, but you can lean back and notice the support. That breath into the belly enacts our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the one that calms down when we get activated. It's a great one for falling asleep at night. I used it last night, but it can be done anywhere. And then that sigh is a release, an intentional release. So start noticing when you sigh and you don't even realize it. It's your body saying, I'm releasing something.
Mm-hmm. Bodies are so wise.
Right?
So now we're going to talk about burnout. And, I think burnout has always been there. And COVID just brought it to the forefront. You see it in every profession, highlighting in the medical profession with nurses and doctors and pharmacists now walking off the job and other nurses striking and not necessarily asking for better pay, just better support, you know.
Yes.
So
Sometimes for both.
yeah, but more for support. And so are we seeing this in our younger people? I think we are. I think, you know, our generation, you got a job and that was your job for life. You thought anyway, because that's what your parents did, right? They got a job and they had a job for life. And I did. I started out with a company and I thought that was, but then they got sold and they got sold and they got sold. And as it got bigger, the stress increased. So what are your thoughts about that?
Young people in particular or burnout in general? Just
Well, burnout, and then do you think younger people are noticing it earlier and changing?
I 100% agree that burnout has always been around. I think the pandemic and the shutdown and the stress that we all encountered in whatever way, people were paying a little more attention to it. It became a word that was used more and more. And I think on a very, very basic level, people want to feel appreciated and heard and like they matter. And so to your point about, you were talking about, you know, more money, more support. Look, I'd love to have enough money to buy a beach house, let's be honest. But all the money in the world does not change the way that burnout affects my way of being, okay? So livable wage and also paying attention to what people are going through and feeling. And it's not a one size fits all. You know, don't give people a branded mug and expect them to be like, oh, rainbows and kittens, life is great, you know? Because if you think about an organization with medical professionals helping professions, they go into that work because I think for the most part, they really care about people. You know, I did working with students as a helping profession. So there was a drive, there was, you know, a why. But after a while of not feeling appreciated, and when people continue to get more and more work and pressure and confusing messages, our brains just, and our bodies, we can't handle it. We just can't. It's human. It's not bad. It doesn't mean anybody's incompetent or anything like that. And not everybody has the choice that I did to create something different.
So probably most people can make whatever situation they're in as far as work and stress, they can improve their response if they work on themselves.
Well, yes. And at the same time, I don't love when the pressure is put on the individuals in an organizational type situation. But yes, the opportunity, the permission to take care of yourself versus everybody called in sick today, you have to come in. I know it's your only day off, but we need, you know, and without a thank you, without extra pay or a mug or some movie tickets. I mean,
right.
You know, a fruit basket.
Yeah.
But it's different for people. You know, my kind of little self-care stress thing, honestly, this is so silly, but, you know, I would drive home and stop somewhere and buy a new lipstick, and that cheered me up. That's those little, like, petty or, I don't know, little bitty self-care things.
Something.
But the big radical self-care is, like, I can't keep doing this, and you can't keep doing it to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Using your voice and finding it and using it too.
But I don't feel very hopeful for that right now. And I don't.
There's a pharmacist that started a blog a couple years ago, and she called it "The Pizza's Not Working," meaning that, you know, they would, you know, walk into these overworked pharmacy departments and hand them a pizza thinking that's going to, you know, help them. And it has taken off to the point where, again, it's leading to walkouts throughout the country because it's just not a safe situation.
I mean, and a pharmacist, that's a life or death job.
Yeah.
When people are burned out, someone
Yeah.
Could die. Yeah, I read that actually. The pizza's not working. It would for me because that's my favorite.
Me too.
But you see, like, you can't just dump a bunch of pizzas when you don't know what people's like work or community love language is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we should also just note here that we do have very special mugs with us today, branded with the logo for Mindful Matters 585. So, Laura, thank you for that. That's a really nice touch. Nobody's ever done that for us before.
I know.
So thank you.
So you're not burned out anymore, right? Kittens and rainbows, everything is perfect.
Oh.
No. Tell us about the logo on the mug.
Yeah. Well, the spiral symbol is an ancient symbol, and I've always been drawn to it. I was an anthropology major in college, by the way, so I always loved learning about different cultures and symbols and things like that. And so years before Mindful Matters was even a seed, I was doodling, and I'm like, well, it has to have a spiral. And so the spiral significance, one of the meanings is continuous and balanced growth. And you might see that in nature, like a fern, the way it unfurls. And then that center is kind of like a grounding touch point. And can I borrow your mug for a second?
Of course.
I won't, I'll give it back. So I know you all can't see me, listeners, but think about a spiral and starting from the outer edge and breathing in and then breathing out. So it's something that can be on your desk as a little reminder.
Oh, that's great.
And then it's a sticker, so there's texture to it. So it can be a way to interrupt.
Oh, I didn't notice that was a sticker. I thought that's very cool. I like that.
I learned really low budget ways to brand.
Well, we need to talk with you about that too.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. And then, it's usable, a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, and to be like, oh, I'm going to be mindful with this first sip and get settled. So, yeah, my husband's a graphic artist, and he helped with the logo. And I love it. I think it just really speaks to the heart of the business. It's simple.
It's simply beautiful.
Thank you.
I just have to add to our conversation about burnout in terms of, I think corporate and large institutions have gotten a little bit toxic, and that complete and over the top lack of appreciation for everyone has value within an organization, and that it doesn't matter what your job title is, you're all part of the whole, and you all are important. And I really hope that we can get back to that a little bit, where everybody's feeling like they matter. And I think we have a long way to go. But anyways, I worked in education. So what I noticed was there are pockets of schools that have embraced mindfulness practices for students. And it's a wonderful thing. It's not everybody's doing it. Some people are. My 3-year-old grandson takes yoga and is loving it. And came home the other day and said, we say namaste. So truly, I believe that it does need to start. We're all sitting here saying, oh, yeah, I was a little bit older. My first introduction was my older sister who was doing yoga, who I was like, oh, my God, she's deep in the hippie thing. Oh, God. And didn't really embrace it till later in my life. But it has always been something I come back to. And consistency would be a good thing.
Same.
Would be good. But I really believe that if we did really embrace kids at school learning mindfulness and yoga is part of daily activity, and in schools right now, social emotional learning, mental health, all of the requirements and expectations of what schools are supposed to do, this plays right into it. It's a piece of the pie. It's not an add-on. It really would fit really well. So, based on all we know and the impactful potential of yoga mindfulness, what do you think? How can we bring this forward into schools on a more pervasive basis?
Well, one, I think there is a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of confusion about what mindfulness is. That it's hippy dippy. That there's a religious layer to it, and so that creates misunderstanding and fear and resistance. I mean, any change, and that's really the big reason that when I do programs and have clients, it's secular, it's everyday, it's I mean, I love Buddhist art and books, and if clients are looking at my bookshelf, they're going to see where the interest is, but it's not something that I front load. If they're interested and ask a question, it can go to that. So I think, there's this fear that all of these, religions and hippies are going to take over and like hypnotize and brainwash our kids. And I just want someone to go like, that's not what it is.
Yeah.
And I also don't minimize it either. Like, well, just breathe. Just breathe. Just do this. Everything will be great. It's not that either. It's not a fix, but it's also not a big scary thing. The truth is in the middle. The truth is always in the middle. The other thing is, and this is more of like the corporate business resistance, is that it costs money to implement these things, and it doesn't generate revenue.
And it's always all about the money.
It
right?
is. It is. So, if you could help me figure out how this could generate revenue, not in an evil corporate takeover way, but having that be part of the convincing people in schools and.
But it might increase productivity
It does.
in some way. So right. So that's
Less
energy
sick days.
right. So that's beneficial.
Yep.
You maybe not.
There is a lot of data out there for that.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's an investment.
it's costing them money, but maybe it's really not. Maybe it's really benefiting them in deeper ways. I don't know.
If people with the budgets could try it and see, it'd be like, like my moment in that class. And then I personally struggle with being asked to do a program so that their employees can do their work better. I won't do it. That feels icky to me. They will do their work better, but I'm not going to front load it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's an insult to them too.
Yeah.
It really is.
I'll never forget being called into a team meeting and someone brought this book, Who Moved My Cheese? Because we had a new leader.
Of course. Everyone did that. Was this time period. That was
Early
it.
2000s, right?
Yeah.
And I have never felt so patronized. No, I have probably worse than that. But I felt very patronized and a waste of my time. And I'm like, oh, you mean there's new cheese and it's over there? Okay. But you know what? There were some people in the office who it really resonated with them. So I shut my mouth,
Everybody's different. We're all at different places at different times.
Right. They needed cheese. I wanted pizza,
Pizza was working for you. Yeah. Well, I think there is a change in the younger people now in their mindset. They just won't stay in a job that they don't feel comfortable in. It's so stressful for them. So I give them a lot of credit. I
do
really
too.
do give them a lot of credit for.
There's a perception that this generation is lazy and doesn't want to work. And I'm like, no, they just don't want to work the way it's been and get burned out. I mean, yeah, of course there are some lazy people, but they're outliers.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, Laura. So I'd like to ask you about Reiki. I have embraced Reiki, and I became a Reiki master when my world was turned upside down. I was drawn to it initially to help my precious daughter, Emily, but it ended up helping me get through the darkest of times. It was a time when I was doing everything that I could, and, everything just felt, I just felt a powerlessness I'd never felt before. But it helped me to keep going and keep putting one foot in front of the other. How did you discover Reiki?
One of the women that I did my mindfulness teaching training with went on to get her Reiki training. She was drawn to it, and she's a therapist and a mindfulness teacher and a social activist. And so that was kind of the first person I knew that was doing it. And so she's like, "Can I practice on you?" And it was really cool. And so I'm not a Reiki practitioner, but I'm a fan of it. Mm-hmm. I don't do it regularly, but I would like to.
I think it's just a wonderful way to really connect with yourself.
Yes.
And it's just like when people meditate in a group, they say that it's a deeper experience, and I believe it is. But sometimes Reiki can help you get to a space you've never been to before. Mm-hmm. And though the practitioner is with you, you're really not aware of them. But there's just something about the gentle touch and the energy that is hard to explain to people. But once you've felt that level of relaxation, you just can't wait to feel that relaxed again. And that's what everybody says. I've never felt so relaxed in my life. And I think the deeper you can get into whatever it is that works for you, and the more frequently you can do it, the more beneficial it is. So
I agree. That permission to let go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And at the same time, somebody's right there with you.
Right. So you're not alone. So I'm a very spiritual person, and I think that I like Reiki in that you can just believe in energy. You can believe in God. You can believe in higher power. You can, it'll meet you wherever you're at. But I also think sometimes the people who would benefit the most from it are the most type A resistant people. Yeah. So, but all in good time. So go ahead, Jack.
So obviously from this conversation and we know how you love what you do and how passionate you are about helping others. How has that influenced your family?
Oh, well, as I mentioned earlier, my husband, it was about a year and a half ago, so kind of halfway from the seedling, it was, him saying, "Wow, I really see a difference in you," and at the same time, not that it was like a huge conflict or thing, but he's just, the stomping around, the getting really triggered or upset about a candy wrapper on the floor, like just really everyday things that the volume was so turned up. So I really think that not only my own practice, but working with people, whether they're groups or talking like this, like it's been transformational for me. It really has. And I'll share something. This morning I woke up with this overwhelming feeling of gratitude. Now let me tell you, I don't think ever in my life I have woken up with like, I'm so grateful. Like that's not who this Jersey girl is, okay? Gratitude is a very profound practice. And usually I'm having a crap day and I'm reminding myself, okay, what one good thing? What are you grateful for? So when I woke up this morning, I was like, what is happening? And then instead of trying to change it, like, oh, she's lost her damn mind, I was like, you know what? Pay attention to this moment. This is a moment, a really cool moment. It feels nice. And so the trick of mindfulness when things are good and pleasant and happy too. And then I check my email and, because nothing is permanent. So when I saw this email, I was like, okay, not grateful for that, but I had that. Mm-hmm. And so I think, Linda, when you were talking about the Reiki, when you had that little moment, you are inclined to seek it out more often.
Right.
Or notice it more often.
That's true. And people notice it in you because people, a friend of mine said, oh my gosh, you know how to do Reiki. You're a Reiki master. You can teach me. I want you to teach me. And I had never thought that I would teach it. I just wanted to learn it for my family. But yeah, I don't have as much time to do that now, but I really did enjoy sharing it with other people. But it's kind of like people notice things that you don't realize that they notice when you're feeling good and when you're feeling stressed and when you're not feeling good. So yeah, so it's really an honor to hold that space, whatever it is, whether you're teaching mindfulness, whether you're a therapist, whether you're a Reiki practitioner or a masseuse, it doesn't matter. Just to help people get to that peaceful space through yoga, through whatever it is. Yeah. It's really a gift you give to someone else.
Yeah, and it's a break, and we all deserve a little break to let go, to feel safe and able to really let go. Mm-hmm. Have you ever done a salt float? Highly recommend it.
Oh, no, we thought about it.
Very similar.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah. It's a lot
awesome.
Yes, I've went in, I've looked at the water and checked out the place, but I have not actually done it yet. So, but I'm open to all those things. I'd also like to try the infrared sauna. I've heard a lot about that. I have had an Okiniski massage with that infrared little gadget when I was having some neck problems, and it was very relaxing. And yeah, it was amazing. Different parts of your body. You feel the heat from this tool, the parts of your body that are tense or stressed or there's inflammation. And then, you go a few times and your body doesn't react the same way. So it's just very interesting. Yeah. So I'm open to all those things. Yep.
I believe in integrative wellness, whether it's a lipstick or a massage or Reiki, treat yourself if you can.
Yes.
I'm going to add a quick question about you do coaching. Can you tell us a little bit more about coaching and if you train coaches or what? Did you take any courses to?
So, yeah, my model of mindful counseling and coaching is really unique. It's a blend. So it's not therapy. I have a master's degree in counseling, but I'm by design not a clinical therapist or social worker. So, but counseling is, hey, so, I mean, we don't have to get deep, tell me about your mother.
Can't get away from that.
I mean, we can if you want, but
the mother molds the child. That's what my father said. And he usually said that when we weren't being good.
So the counseling and the coaching are kind of, hey, what's going on in your life? What's been going on in your life? And then the coaching comes in with, so what are your goals? What do you want to get to? And what kind of help do you need getting there? And then coming to as much as we can, the moment, and integrating mindfulness skills. So it's never a half and half kind of series of sessions. Sometimes it's a little more counseling than coaching, but it's some goal setting. It's some... Yeah. And I really like it. And when I meet with clients one-on-one, this is what it looks like. I mean, the first session is really getting to know each other a little bit and kind of, thinking about what they hope to accomplish. And then sessions after that, I start with a short grounding meditation and then a check-in. So what's going on today since I saw you? Okay. So do you want to set some goals? Do you want to talk more about that? And then integrate at least one mindful skill. You know, if someone says, I can't, I'm having trouble sleeping at night, that belly breath is, try it. You'll see. I'm telling you.
No, I do that all the time.
I have to be careful. I get a little evangelical about it. Like it's such it's secular practice for me. But I'm like, do it. It works.
That's really good.
Do the majority of people coming to see you, are they looking for a career change?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. So it's a real mix.
Career change, maybe a relationship change, maybe just feeling super stressed, and maybe they've tried other things. And, you know, I've had people contact me. They've been walking down the street on South Avenue. I might see my sign. I have a little QR code, and they're like, it goes straight to my contact page. They're like, I was like, maybe that's something I should try.
It's a beautiful blending of strategies to help people take another look and refocus. And I appreciate, thank you for explaining that, because that is unique.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Thanks.
It's wonderful because you're coaching and giving tools and listening and
It's almost like,
talking.
to me, it feels like a little bit more of a practical kind of counseling.
Yes.
Because I see a therapist, and he can offer me practical advice, but I've had therapists where it's a lot of silence, and there's beauty to that. That's a certain approach to therapy. There's different approaches, but I was like, tell me what to do.
Well, and a lot of people are like that.
And I don't tell people what to do.
But to be able to be like, even just a little mindfulness, I'm going to work on this. I have something I can try and strategize. So I think right away people kind of get a feeling of, there is something.
Yeah.
So I really like the approach.
I always send notes a couple days later, kind of a run through of what we did together, a little more information about some things we talked about, like an article or a blog or a video, whatever. And then I give homework, which is try to practice what we learned, and a journal prompt.
I like it. I
Thanks.
like it. Yeah.
You gonna sign up?
Hey,
You wanna do it?
I'm thinking.
Marketing for hippies.
So good. Okay, my last question is, throughout my life, I've experienced connecting with nature, embracing mindfulness. I mentioned yoga. They've all truly helped me through some really challenging times. I have to admit, it was challenging for me when I first had to quiet my mind. That first, I was always literally afraid of meditation because I was like, it's just too weird. I can't do it. So I understand it. I truly understand that thinking. And then the first time I had to quiet my mind, I was like, oh my God, am I going to be able to do this? Can I do this? And I was able to. But if you have any words of wisdom that can help our listeners.
So you're talking to a woman who was diagnosed with ADHD in her 40s. So quieting the mind has never been my forte. However, people think that quieting the mind is the ultimate goal with this. It's not. It's one of the things. Mindfulness can be just noticing what's here, bringing that breath in. Okay. Mm-hmm. And there are tricks when the mind is going, because that's just what our minds do to varying degrees. And we've never learned otherwise, right? In fact, we're rewarded for all the multitasking. So there are little tricks that coming back to your breath as an anchor, because it needs to be intentional and deliberate. Like, I'm noticing my thoughts are all over the place. One great trick is noticing the thought, labeling it. I know it sounds very like elementary. But, okay, I'm having a thought about grocery shopping later. But I'm right here, right now. I don't need to make that list. So, thought, planning, and try to let it float away, whether it's a cloud or a leaf in the stream. It'll come back later if you need it. I don't need it right now. And those are those quick in the moment times. Yeah. And it can be helpful for a longer meditation to quiet the mind. And every time you have to label a thought, if it's 1,000,000 times, It's a million times.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how our brains work. So that, and don't try not to beat ourselves up about it.
Yeah. Yes.
I can't quiet my mind. Terrible at this. The judgments,
Yeah.
That's why I like Seinfeld. You know, when you would watch Seinfeld, you would always hear the thoughts in their heads, you know, about circumstances or other people. And we have them all the time. And yeah, and it's a good thing we don't always say them.
let's just say they're not all necessary or helpful.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Wow, this has gone by quickly. We're so grateful that you could join us. I think it's really interesting, Laura, that Ellen and I met you at Barb Klein's retreat, which was titled Coming Home to Yourself. And that's just what you've done in your personal life. And that's what you are teaching other people to do, just to embrace their authentic selves and come home to themselves. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for joining us today. This was so relaxing and so inspiring and wonderful, just all around wonderful. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Laura. This has been wonderful. And remind us again where people can find you.
Just Google mindfulness in Rochester.
Okay.
Mindful Matters 585.
Very simple.
I love it. This was awesome. And it's always so nice to learn about something a little bit different and other opportunities for people to take a look at why life seems a little overwhelming and stressful. So it's a wonderful thing. You embraced your passion, and look what has happened. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you all. I appreciate it. The bad news is stress never goes away. But
True.
the good news is we can approach it a little differently, knowing that it'll come and go. Mostly.
Okay. Laura, again, thank you. And thank you, Rockbox Recording and Production. And thank you, sound engineer and producer Scott Fitzgerald, for expertly producing our podcast and so much more.
Listeners, please help us continue the conversation. Please rate, review, and share, and subscribe to One Shattered Picking Up the Pieces on the podcast platform you are listening to us on. Tell your friends and family about us. We'd really appreciate it.
And as always, remember, Rockbox is the place to record your podcast, record your audiobook, or do a legacy cast for your loved ones. Again, thank you for listening, and you guys are the best, and we really appreciate your reviews and your feedback. Thanks for being here.